Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdur-Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified, and you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها النبي لم تحرم ما أحل الله لك تبتغي مرضات أزواجك والله غفور رحيم قد فرض الله لكم تحلة أيمانكم والله مولاكم وهو العليم الحكيم وإذ أسر النبي إلى بعض أزواجه حديثا فلما نبأت به وأظهره الله عليه عرف وإذ أسر النبي إلى بعض أزواجه حديثا فلما نبأت به وأظهره الله عليه عرف بعضه وأعرض عن بعض عرف بعضه وأعرض عن بعض فلما نبأها به قالت من أنبأك هذا قال نبأني العليم الخبير بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها النبي يا أيها النبي لم تحرم ما أحل الله لك تبتغي مرضات أزواجك يا أيها النبي لم تحرم ما أحل الله لك تبتغي مرضات أزواجك والله غفور رحيم قد فرض الله لكم تحلة أيمانكم قد فرض الله لكم تحلة أيمانكم والله مولاكم وهو العليم الحكيم وإذا سر النبي إلى بعض أزواجه حديثا فلما نبأت به وأظهره الله عليه وإذا سر النبي إلى بعض أزواجه حديثا فلما نبأت به وأظهره الله عليه عرف بعضه وأعرض عن بعض وأظهره الله عليه عرف بعضه وأعرض عن بعض فلما نبأها به قالت من أنبأك هذا قال نبأني العليم الخبير فلما نبأها به قالت من أنبأك هذا قال نبأني العليم الخبير إن تتوبا إلى الله فقد صغت قلوبكما إن تتوبا إلى الله فقد صغت قلوبكما وإن تظاهرا عليه فإن الله هو مولاه وجبريل وصالح المؤمنين والملائكة عسى ربه إن طلقكن أن يبدله أزواجا خيرا منكن مسلمات إن تتوبا إلى الله فقد صغت قلوبكما وإن تظاهرا عليه فإن الله هو مولاه فإن الله هو مولاه وجبريل وصالح المؤمنين والملائكة بعد ذلك ظهير عسى ربه إن طلقكن أن يبدله عسى ربه إن طلقكن أن يبدله أزواجا خيرا منكن مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات تائبات عابدات سائحات ثيبات وأبكارا مسلمات مؤمنات مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات تائبات عابدات سائحات عسى ربه إن طلقكن أن يبدله أزواجا خيرا منكن مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات مسلمات قانتات تائبات عابدات مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات عابدات سائحات ثيبات مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات تائبات عابدات سائحات ثيبات وأبكارا مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات تائبات عابدات سائحات ثيبات وأبكارا مسلمات مؤمنات قانتات تائبات عابدات سائحات ثيبات وأبكارا يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة نارا وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون. يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار تجري من تحتها الأنهار يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يقولون ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يقولون لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير. يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم. يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم ومأواهم جهنم وبئس المصير. يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم ومأواهم جهنم وبئس المصير. يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم ومأواهم جهنم وبئس المصير. ضرب الله مثلا للذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط كانتا تحت عبدين من عبادنا صالحين من عبادنا صالحين فخانتاهما فلم يغنيا عنهما من الله شيئا وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين. وقيل ادخلا النار مع الداخلين. صدق الله العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك ورسولك محمد في الأولين، وصل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك ورسولك محمد في الآخرين، وصل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك ورسولك محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم تقبل منا واقبلنا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. ربنا اكشف عنا العذاب إنا مؤمنون. ربنا لا تجعلنا فتنة للقوم الظالمين. ربنا أفرغ علينا صبرا وتوفنا مسلمين. اللهم أحينا مسلمين وتوفنا مسلمين وألحقنا بالصالحين غير خزايا ولا مفتونين. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من السلب بعد العطاء، ونعوذ بك من عضال الداء، ونعوذ بك من شماتة الأعداء، ونعوذ بك من خيبة الرجاء. اللهم آت نفوسنا تقواها وزكها أنت خير من زكاها، أنت وليها ومولاها. اللهم أغننا بحلالك عن حرامك، وبطاعتك عن معصيتك، وبفضلك عمن سواك. رحماك بنا يا الله، رحماك بنا يا الله، رحماك بنا يا ربنا. إذا جاءت سكرة الموت بالحق وجاء ما كنا منه نحيد. رحماك بنا يا ربنا يوم ينفخ في الصور. رحماك بنا يا ربنا يوم تأتي كل نفس معها سائق وشهيد. رحماك بنا يا ربنا يوم تقول لجهنم هل امتلأت وتقول هل من مزيد. رحماك يا الله ما لنا غيرك يا الله. عفوك يا الله، لطفك يا الله. عفوك يا الله، عفوك يا الله. لطفك يا الله، غفرانك يا الله. اللهم الطف بنا يا مولانا فيما جرت به المقادير. اللهم إنك عفو تحب العفو فاعف عنا. اللهم اعف عن آبائنا واعف عن أمهاتنا. اللهم اعف عن آبائنا واعف عن أمهاتنا واعف عن أزواجنا واعف عن أبنائنا واعف عن ذرياتنا. اللهم اغفر لآبائنا وأمهاتنا وآبائهم وأمهاتهم إلى أولهم في الإسلام يا ربنا. آباءنا وأمهاتنا حملوا لنا دينك الإسلام يا ربنا. آباءنا وأمهاتنا ورثونا لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله. اللهم ارحمهم يا الله. اللهم اغفر لهم يا الله. اللهم ارحم آباءنا وأمهاتنا كما ربونا صغارا. اللهم ارحم آباءنا وأمهاتنا كما رحمونا يا أرحم الراحمين يا خير الراحمين يا من رحمته وسعت كل شيء. اللهم لا تخرجنا من هذا الشهر الكريم إلا وقد كتبتنا من المعتوقين، إلا وقد كتبتنا من المغفور لهم، إلا وقد كتبتنا من المقبولين يا خير المسؤولين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على عبدك ونبيك ورسولك محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه. اللهم آمين. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على حي على الفلاح. حي على الفلاح. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله.
كيف ترقى رقيك الأنبياء يا سماء ما غاورتها سماء ومحيا كالشمس منك مضيء أسفرت عنه ليلة غراء ليلة المولد التي كانت للدين فرحا بها وازدهاء
يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا نبينا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا نبينا الحبيب المصطفى طه الذي قد فاق عطر الورد في تمجيده هذا الحبيب المصطفى طه الذي قد فاق عطر الورد في تمجيده هذا الحبيب المصطفى طه الذي قد فاق عطر الورد في تمجيده هذا الحبيب المصطفى طه الذي قد فاق عطر الورد في تمجيده يا خير مولود يا نبينا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا نبينا ضاءت به أم القرى وجبالها والكون أصبح مشرقا بقدومه ضاءت به أم القرى وجبالها والكون أصبح مشرقا بعلومه ضاءت به أم القرى وجبالها والكون أصبح مشرقا بقدومه ضاءت به أم القرى وجبالها والكون أصبح مشرقا بعلومه يا خير مولود
يا نبينا
وافر الجود
يا نبينا
يا خير مولود
يا نبينا
وافر الجود
يا نبينا يا
نبينا
صلى عليك الله يا علم الهدى يا فائقا كل الورى بعلومه
صلى عليك الله يا
علم الهدى يا فائقا كل الورى
بعلومه
صلى عليك الله يا علم الهدى يا فائقا كل الورى بعلومه
صلى عليك الله يا
علم الهدى يا فائقا كل الورى بعلومه يا خير مولود
يا نبينا
يا وافر الجود
يا نبينا
يا خير مولود
يا نبينا
يا وافر الجود
يا نبينا يا نبينا
يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود
يا نبينا
يا وافر الجود
يا نبينا
يا خير مولود
يا نبينا
يا وافر الجود
يا نبينا يا نبينا
أبكي وبدري بالجمال توارى وتأوهي ملأ الفجاج أوارى كسفينة في بطن بحر قد جرت وفؤادها للسير يلهب نارا وخذ النبي وسيلة فهو الذي أضحى في دج العمى مختارا
أليف الغراء والسحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء أليف الغراء والسحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء أليف الغراء والسحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء
علي في الهوى عار إذا علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهاء هدى الشوق حرمني للسهاد
هدى الشوق هاد حرم للسهاد
هدى الشوق هاد حرم للسهاد
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه
بحب أحمد عالي المقام بحب أحمد عالي المقام هو محمد هدي الأنام
هو محمد هدي الأنام
هو محمد هدي الأنام
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه
علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام يرقب الأرواح إن هبت صباها يرقب الأرواح إن هبت صباها ذاب الشوق ذاب في هوى الأحباب
ذاب الشوق ذاب في هوى الأحباب
ذاب الشوق ذاب في خير العباد
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه
علي في الهوى عار إذا علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام هذا الشوق هاد حرمني السجاد
هذا الشوق هاد حرمني السؤال
هذا الشوق هاد حرمني السجاد
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهمت به أطيب الوياه فهمت به أطيب الوياه فهمت به أطيب الوياه
يا حسن لقاء
كنت وسألت في هواكم أدبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لأبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لأبي يا حسن الله كللا بالكلب أبديك من الرضا بأمي وأبي يا حسن الله كللا بالكلب من الرجاء أمي ولدي إن كنت وسألت في هواكم أدبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لأبي فالعصمة لا تكون إلا لأبي المصر إذا رآك مخفي سجدا والعين إذا رأتك تسوق الرمدا إذا رأك مخفي سجدا والعين إذا رأتك تقربدا يا من بوصاله يناوي بنا ما تفعلوا اليوم تلقاه أنا ما تفعلوا اليوم تلقاه أنا يا مالك برجتي ترفق بالله لا بد لكل عاشق من زلات يا مالك برجتي ترفق بالله لا بد لكل عاشق من زلات نفسي جنت ومرجتي في علاه لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله يا حسن الله كللا بالنبي أنتي من الرضا بأمي وأبي يا حسن الله كللا بالنبي أنتي من الرضا بأمي وأبي إن كنت وسأت في رواكم أدبي فالعزمة لا تكون إلا لأبي فالعزمة لا تكون إلا لأبي فالعزمة لا تكون إلا لأبي
كيف ترقى رقيك الأنبياء يا سماء ما غاورتها سماء ومحيا كالشمس منك مضيء أسفرت عنه ليلة غراء ليلة المولد التي كانت للدين فرحا بها وازدهاء
يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا نبينا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى يا خير مولود بمكة قد أتى ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه ذلت لهيبته جميع خصومه يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا خير مولود يا نبينا يا وافر الجود يا نبينا يا نبينا
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters, ISB and ISBC, all our lovely community members. I hope you're doing well. There's some positive news that we're going to go back step by step wisely under the guidelines of the CDC and taking into like consideration the social distancing, hopefully soon. And our beloved message, inshallah, will be open, and hopefully that we'll see each other really soon. Will this happen? Now, this is like a very unique, I would say, episode about now we've been in the quarantine for some time, in lockdown with our kids, and this being a challenge. Now we know the effort our school teachers used to put with our kids, just being locked down in a classroom for 45 or 1 hour. I've been locked down with our kids for now, God knows, like 2 months, and hopefully soon will be things will change. Till this will happen, how can we change and replace our kids' disappointments and anxiety into joy and celebration, especially that we are approaching Eid, especially we're approaching like a very joyful day we will celebrate. So how can we change that? And whether like we admit it or not, our kids are sitting on the dinner table and eating together, and they are watching our discussions, and they are seeing all those negative vibes, whether they are expressing that or not, it is there. And that's why we thought of like having our subject matter expert guest today. And let me start by introducing Dr. Christopher Willard. Dr. Chris is an author of 11 plus books, and he is a psychologist, educational consultant based in Boston, specializing in mindfulness. Has been practicing meditation for 20 years, and he has led hundreds of workshops around the world with invitation more than dozens countries, than 24 countries. He currently serves on the board of directors at the Institute of Meditation and Psychotherapy. He is the president of Mindfulness in Education Network. He presented at TEDx conferences, and his thoughts have appeared in the New York Times, Washington Post, mindful.org, and elsewhere. He is the author of Child's Mind, something that we're interested to know, and Growing Up Mindful, Raising Resilience, and 8 other books for parents, professionals, and children, along with 6 sets of cards and therapeutic games available in more than 10 languages. He is the right person to be with us. He also teaches at the Harvard Medical School. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Chris Willard. Doctor, how are you?
I'm well, thank you so much. Salam alaikum, Ramadan Kareem. That's about all I know, but thank you. It's a real honor to be here with
that's a lot.
Community. Thank you.
Wa alaikum assalam. And when someone says Ramadan Kareem, we say Allah Akram, which is Allah is gracious. Thank you very much for this. Peace be upon you. So, Doctor, let me start by first of all, thank you for giving up the time and being with us. So let's try to simplify things. What is mindfulness?
To me, mindfulness is really just about learning how to be a little bit more in the present, intentionally, being a bit more aware. We spend so much of our lives being on autopilot without even thinking about what we're doing, driving to work, eating, all these different things, trying to care for our kids and our families. Mindfulness is about slowing down, turning off that autopilot, getting into the moment, and really learning how to appreciate the moment. And that can be, for some of us, that can be really profoundly spiritual. For others, it doesn't necessarily have to be. But it also has all these other tremendous benefits we see to the brain and the body and to our relationships. And in many ways, as we're slowing down during this quarantine or lockdown or whatever it is we might want to call it, it's kind of pushing us to slow down and be more mindful, be more aware of everything. It's a good opportunity to start practicing as well.
So actually, we've been forced to practice this mindfulness. We've been running, and now like everything is locked down. So now this is the time. I think this is how can I bring this concept into my discussion with my kids? And number one, I have to convince them to leave the iPad discussion, and then I have to engage them in this discussion. How can I do that?
Right. And I do think it's hard convincing our kids to find ways to make this fun and interesting to them. But kids are already so naturally curious. And I think mindfulness is really about provoking that curiosity. And I know that depending on, we're all mostly, I assume, in Boston area where we can get out a little bit. I mean, just this morning, I was out with my own family. We drove out to Great Meadows and we took a kind of mindful nature walk out in Concord, Massachusetts, where we were just noticing all of the colors. We were trying to walk as silently as we could on the ground, kind of a mindful walking practice, and just really enjoying seeing the beauty of the world, of the clouds passing, and looking carefully for animals and seeing snakes and frogs and turtles. And so it's just slowing down in a lot of ways is one way to just to bring more mindfulness and more awareness into our lives, and that kind of thing with our kids also. I also try in the mornings just to do a little mindful moment with the family. I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Those weren't part of the bio that I gave you, but we do a little morning meeting and we just ring a bell and just maybe focus on our breath or notice the different sounds of the birds that we can hear, which is extraordinary. The birds are waking me up every morning. I don't know about everybody else, but it's so quiet. It's like nature's suddenly back in Cambridge.
That's the same for me. Yeah, that's the same for me. But because this month is the month of Ramadan, whereby our pattern is sleeping and we'll be getting up early. It's not advisable, especially on the weekends. Today is Saturday. It's no one would like to wake up early. So I understand that. So this is a kind of discussion I have to run with my kids to tell them that, hey, let's take this moment and think about the beauty around us. Fine. So do you think there's a relationship between mindfulness and anxiety? Before answer this one, Jamila, assalamu alaikum, and thank you very much for giving us those amazing resources. Jamila is watching us and she's saying assalamu alaikum, Jamila, and as well. So so is there any relationship between mindfulness and anxiety? If I would be mindful, and by the way, we have ibadah, which is a worship in Islam. It's say at-ta'ammul wa tafakkur. Yes, we have to be mindful about the things that we do. So is there a relation between being mindful and releasing or decreasing the anxiety level?
Absolutely. So there's one of the things that's really interesting to me is how much research there's been on mindfulness, which again is just kind of a new, in some ways, or a more popular word these days for what exists in almost every culture, almost every spiritual practice. As you're already saying, this exists. We already know this. We're just now calling it mindfulness in some ways. And these moments of reflection, these moments of slowing down, of quiet, the way Ramadan is, and then also bringing more appreciation to things. I don't know all that much about Ramadan. I know you fast during the day and probably eat a little bit at night, but I'm guessing that food after sunset probably tastes really, really good. Right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're paying attention to it.
I tend to disagree with you, Dr. Chris, because eating a little bit at the night, no, it doesn't happen. Right now, doing fasting, and then sunset, we eat a lot.
Okay, so you eat a lot, but it probably tastes great after a long time. So it encourages appreciation, it encourages gratitude, right? So it has that effect. And all of this also then, whether it's appreciation, living in the moment, anxiety is a few things. In our bodies, anxiety is stress, and our heart is pounding and our palms are sweating and things like that. And it's very uncomfortable physically. And in our minds, anxiety is about the future and all the uncertainty in the future. Am I going to lose my job? When are the kids going to go back to school? How long is this going to last? Am I going to get sick? Or are my parents going to get sick? Right? What's going to happen in all these different scenarios? When's this going to end? And so anxiety is about being in the future. Mindfulness is about being in the present, where usually we're a little bit happier, right? The future is where all those bad things tend to happen. But a lot of them never even end up happening, is the good news. And the other thing about the future, and I think, just to think about where we are now with the quarantine, the lockdown, all of this, is that this will end. I think a lot of us keep forgetting, this is so challenging right now, but this is going to end. We don't know if it's going to end in 6 weeks, in 6 months, hopefully less than 6 years, but we do know at some point this will end. And we'll go back to something that looks like normal. We'll go back to those celebrations, those rituals that we usually have. We'll hug our friends. We'll be back in school, all those things as well. And that's the good thing about the future. But usually we focus on that in between And that's usually a pretty unpleasant place, but we come back again to the present. Again, maybe it's just by looking out the window, noticing all the shades of green. Maybe it's by feeling our feet on the ground. Maybe it's just by enjoying the sensations of our breath that we're able to come back to the present somehow.
Of course, while hearing to you, I think that, do you think mindfulness is not, it's like avoidance of thinking and planning for the future? Because like we know that the future will not be the same. And the future and the norm that we used to live in is not the norm that we are heading to. So
Right.
being mindfulness, it's mean that don't plan for the future. No, like, because like the future will bring me an anxiety. How can I manage between being mindful,
Right.
however, like being pragmatic and think about my future as well?
Absolutely. I think this is such a good, complicated question to ask, because to me, we can't be in the present moment at every single moment, or we would never get dinner on the table. We would never have a job or get our work done. But what happens to us a lot of times is when we're feeling overwhelmed, we start to focus too much on the future in a way that's not helpful, right? Planning, our brain's making up all those stories about losing our job and getting sick and the kids never going back to school and all these other awful things. A little bit of that can be helpful, but too much of that, and we end up with an anxiety disorder, or we end up really, really stressed out. So to me, when I'm trying to practice and learn mindfulness, it's about being in the moment when it's really helpful to be in the moment. On a beautiful day like this, when we're able to be with our family and we can't even focus on work, or we can't even focus on these other things, let's really try to be in the moment with our families. Let's really try to be in the moment next week as we're celebrating, right? And then, when the celebration's over, okay, what is going on with my job? Is it stable and secure? Okay, how am I gonna get dinner on the table? Okay, how am I gonna plan for whatever changes might be coming? But if we spend too much time worrying about it, right, it's not going to be helpful. So to me, it's just finding a balance, really.
Yeah, this is a very good answer. So in your anxiety workbook for teens, you dedicated a section for paying attention to the present, which is being mindful for the present. How do we engage our kids in mindfulness activities? I need some tips in activities. Yeah, like, and if not, I will invite you to my home so that you. So that how can I engage some activities and tips so that I engage my kids and to those blessings and being positive?
Absolutely. I mean, and so I think, when some of us imagine mindfulness and we think about kids like sitting perfectly still or something, like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen, or it's not going to happen for hours on end so that we can get our work done or something like that. But we can find these other ways to make this kind of fun, right? I mentioned this morning being out with my kids, and I actually have memories of this when I was a kid of just like trying to walk without making a sound at all. And it takes so much focus and concentration on the bottoms of your feet to walk mindfully without making a sound. And it's a little bit of a game, right? Walk like a ninja or something like that, right? Or, like maybe sitting down and trying to notice all the sounds around us. Who can notice 5 or 10 sounds? Or making breathing a little bit more interesting, or a game or something. One of the things that I teach to younger kids, and I've got, again, young kids myself, but like little kids can imagine that they're holding maybe a bowl of hot chocolate or soup or something like that, and just breathing in like you're smelling, blowing out, cooling off. Breathe in, smelling, blowing out, cooling off. Or what's that wonderful stew that you eat next week? I can't remember what it's called, but I remember I've had it before. That wonderful lamb stew for the end of Ramadan. But these kinds of things, we make it a bit playful. Or for teenagers, talking about, look, maybe some of your favorite celebrities are interested in mindfulness, or your favorite athletes, perhaps. A lot of professional athletes are doing what they call mental fitness training as a way of training their minds and bodies to be better basketball players, to be better soccer players, things like this. Or even just listening to music. I'll encourage teenagers who usually, roll their eyes so much at this kind of thing, right? Put on your favorite song, and as you're listening to your favorite song, maybe just see if you can listen to one instrument for that whole 5 minutes or so. Your mind goes over to the drums, bring it back to the guitar. It goes over to the lyrics, bring it back to the guitar. And for that 4 or 5 minutes, really learning how to focus their attention on something that they love, right? It's not me telling them to listen to my music, it's them picking their music and bringing just a new kind of awareness to it. So there's different ways for different kids, different ages, where they might start to get interested in why mindfulness can be interesting to them, depending on who they might look up to, right? Sports figures, athletes, pop stars, people in the business world practicing mindfulness more and more. I do consulting all over the place. So I do, I work as a psychologist, but I also do a lot of consulting at venture capital firms, at big internet companies that we've all heard of, because they're really learning how to focus better and perform better, right? At work. For some kids, maybe it's at school, or to be less anxious in a social situation or something like that. When we figure out what's interesting to the kids, then maybe they're like, oh, this mindfulness thing can help me with that. Okay, I like that. I'll give it a shot, right? Maybe I don't care about my schoolwork, but can it help me be more confident in school, like with my friends? Like, well, that actually matters to me. So again, thinking about what's interesting to them.
Perfect. I have a good question from Sister Huda Sharawi. And to give you background, Sister Huda Sharawi is a school teacher, and she actually teach for my kid as well. And this is like a very deep, I would say, question. So Sister Huda is saying that, how about the social aspects of community? What would help with the loneliness that comes with losing that for children? So we've lost this. And actually, even our kids are now using this Zoom, Hangout meetings, and stuff like that. As a if you'd like to put Sister Huda's question on the screen, please. So, so how about this social aspect in the community? What would help with the loneliness that comes with losing that for children?
I think this is so hard. This is the main thing I'm seeing with a lot of the kids, because again, I work as a clinical psychologist in my day job. And what I see with kids, I don't actually see that much anxiety with the kids, but I see a lot of sadness about what they're not doing, and I see a lot of loneliness. And I think this is a real reminder of how much we really need each other, how much we really need our communities, and how much the different communities we're a part of can really start to maybe find ways to keep building community online in really healthy ways, especially so our kids don't start getting caught up in a lot of negativity, which we know can exist online as well. But I think organizations like ISB can be maybe building some youth groups online or something like that. I'm hoping that our schools can continue to support our kids, meeting with each other, meeting up in groups online, things like that. My kids they're not really into video games, but we even just get on Zoom with friends on Friday afternoon. Actually, anyone's welcome to email me if you want to join our little group. We do Legos on Friday afternoons, where we just come up with like, today the theme is pirates, and the kids for half an hour on all their little Zoom channels, they make little pirate ships or something and they share them at the end. It's a way of staying connected. It's also an opportunity to stay connected to other relatives. So my parents only live 5 blocks away, but they're old, and my mom's had cancer, so she's very vulnerable. We're not really visiting particularly, but we get on Zoom and my mom reads books to my son and to my daughter, and he loves being read to, and she loves reading to him. And kids can also connect with other people in the community. They can make artwork and send it out to maybe lonelier members of the community. That, if ISB can come up with a list of the older people who are maybe in nursing homes and can't have any visitors, maybe the kids can start making artwork for them, or recording music for them, recording videos, just greeting some of the elders in the community. These are different ways that kids can stay involved in the community, feeling like they're making a contribution, which is so important for kids. And also so that older people in the community and vulnerable people in the community can also really feel connected back. So in some ways, it's a way to build more community across generations, across different places, and then thinking what are also the ways we can get kids connecting online, playing different kinds of games, not just video games and Minecraft, but other kinds of things where maybe they're doing little arts and crafts projects or little engineering challenges or things like that, where they then all have instructions and they share them with each other. or maybe kids all learn how to cook a meal together on Zoom or something like that. In addition, it's also, living in Cambridge, I just looked at my neighborhood listserv. There's a teenager who's making chalk murals for kids for their birthdays in front of their houses. There's other ways that we can go and visit our friends from a distance. I've seen kids flying kites in the park together at a safe distance. I've seen kids making and leaving artwork for each other at a safe distance, leaving notes and treasure hunts for each other at a safe distance. These are ways that we can still feel connected to our friends and also to larger communities, I think, that really, in many ways, can be a chance to strengthen some of those community ties, which I think is a great opportunity, because this loneliness thing is really, really hard.
That's an awesome answer. Thank you very much. And if you allow me, if Sister Hoda would like to be in contact with you, so because she looks
Absolutely.
after kids, and I would like to make the connection so that our kids in our community benefit from this valuable input. And she's a decision maker at the same time. So in your book, A Child's Mind, number one, Child's Mind is, for me, it's like black box. However, you wrote about it. You talked about the group management and focus. Could you explain this briefly in this quarantine context?
So what exactly I can't remember what I said.
You spoke about the group management and focus.
It can really help us to focus. And there's this idea from science that I think has been known by every religion and philosophy and culture before this, called co-regulation, where when we're all doing a ritual together, whether it's praying together or eating together or who knows what, all kids in a classroom, reciting the school motto, something like that. What we're doing is we're actually really aligning my body physiology with everybody else's at the same time. And what this really does is, because our minds and bodies are all kind of in the same physiological state, then after a little ritual like this, we feel closer, we feel more connected, we feel more compassionate toward other people, and we all start to focus. So what mindfulness also does, and other kinds of things besides mindfulness, of course, different rituals, but is it shuts down in the brain, this part of the brain called the limbic system, or the amygdala is one part of that. That's kind of like the brain's alarm. And if we're stressed out or we're angry or our mind is wandering, right, that part of the brain starts to get more activated and we can't focus. As we start to slow our breath down with some hot chocolate breaths, or we start to feel our feet on the ground or notice all the sounds we can hear, the alarm system in the brain and body actually turns off. And the blood then actually flows into this area here called the prefrontal cortex, this area here called the insular cortex. Now, I don't want to get too technical for you, but what this does, this is the part of the brain where we focus and we pay attention. And this is the part of the brain where we connect with other people, basically. So turning off the alarm, practicing mindfulness, breathing, right, sensory things, whatever it might be, different kinds of rituals that we're doing as a group, they help us to focus on the teacher, focus on the homework, focus on the grown-up who's talking to them, and they also help us feel connected with other people. So it's really, really powerful to just find even these small ways of doing, again, just a short 2-minute, 1-minute, 5-minute mindfulness practice or something like that as a group. And it's also particularly important to do online when we are doing Zoom community meetings or doing Zoom school day, so that everyone's kind of, in some ways, their bodies are actually connected and the breath rate is about the same, the heartbeat is about the same for learning and feeling a little bit connected even online. It actually does make a difference.
And this is great. And the reason for that, actually, in Ramadan, most of the families right now, they pray together. So we used to I would say previously, in previous Ramadan, we used to go to the mosque and then pray the night prayer, pray the 5 daily prayers together. However, we've been forced this year because of the quarantine we shifted into praying together as a family. And I think this, I would say, it's a new experience and it strengthened the bond within the families. However, let me put this into qualify. However, in some cases, this led to increased tension among family and family fights. So what are the important, I would say the most important takeaways from this part as families? Families who bonded together, this is very positive. They have to be mindful about practicing this. However, the increased tension among families, including like the kids and stuff like that, if there is something that we can do to ease it up, especially that we are heading towards one of the biggest celebration, which is Eid for Muslims after Ramadan.
Yeah, yeah. And I do think there's this amazing thing that we're all getting so much time with our families, right? And it's also the most exhausting thing. Spending so much time with our families.
Thank you for the honest comment, sir.
Absolutely. I think we can probably all agree, right? And our kids too, like they're, my kids are like 5 and 2. They couldn't be happier than to be with us. Right. But, if my kid was 8 or 10 or 15 or 20 and back from college, right, maybe not so much. So I think also finding, ways to connect as a family around the positive, but also as they get older and they want their more space and they want more independence, to give that to them a bit. And I've been trying to suggest families just have a few touch points during the day. Maybe you come together at lunchtime, you come together at dinner, you come together for prayer, right? Whatever it might be, but then plenty of independent time during the rest of the day, so that everyone can feel like they've got a little bit of breathing room and parents aren't breathing down their neck or they're not driving the parents crazy or something like that. So it's really finding a balance. And it's interesting what you said about, also I'm just thinking about the fact that we're all, everyone's praying from home. And it's sad to not be part of the community, but then at the same time, I'm reminded of a lot of workshops I've been doing recently. In some ways, I feel more connected, right? It's an opportunity to remember the millions of, sometimes it's just going to mosque or something, or going to your place of worship. You're just focused on the people that are there and yourself. When we're at home and we're thinking about the millions, billions, right, of other Muslims around the world who are connecting, all in their own homes, we can sometimes even feel more connected. And so remembering that as well, I think can be an interesting reminder to think about, and to have and open up some of those conversations with our kids as well, thinking about just everyone who's at home with their parents, for better and for worse, right? Right? Your cousins back in Egypt, they're also with their parents but going a little crazy, and you're whatever it might be.
I like that. So, Dr. Chris, I know that you wrote 11 plus books, and not all of them you remember everything in those books. So I need you, in the remaining 2 minutes, to recommend what are the top 2 books that's next to your heart, you love them, and you think will transform our relationships within our families, within our kids, and anxiety. And what are the take out from those 2 books?
I wrote a book called Raising Resilience a couple of years ago, and it's a book that really tries to look at the science of spiritual practices from really every spiritual tradition in the world, and show that there's actually real science behind things like practicing gratitude, things like generosity or almsgiving, things like prayer can be there's things that happen to our brains, different rituals that are part of every spiritual tradition as well. And so I think that can be really interesting. I thought it was really interesting. I don't know. So I like that.
Okay.
But, I also wrote a book called Alphabet.
Yeah.
Younger kids, and it's just a silly alphabet book with all kinds of silly fun breathing exercises in it, like the hot chocolate breath, or it's got like a alligator breath where you smash your jaws and that kind of thing. But those are some fun ones.
So I got this one, Raising Resilience. What's the name of the second book?
Alpha Breaths.
Okay, yeah.
And you can find all these on my website as well as at Amazon, and hopefully soon in bookstores when bookstores reopen.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you very much, Doctor. I really enjoyed that. I personally learned a lot, and I'll try to practice some of those tips and techniques with my kid. If it didn't work out, I'll reach out to you on WhatsApp.
And if it doesn't, then you can never again back on the show.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. We really enjoyed that. Thank you, sir. Okay. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you, and welcome to the ISBCC's Seeking the Night of Power program for this evening. I want to welcome all of you, and I want to glorify Allah. Inna alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-anbiya wal mursaleen sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'ahu bilisanin ila yawmiddin. We are possibly this evening given the greatest gift that you can possibly imagine, especially within a year, the Muslim year. It is the last night of the nights of the last 10 nights that is a possibility for it being the night of power. It is also the night before Jumu'ah. Some people consider this to be, amongst the scholars, a very sacred and honorable blessing. What I'd like to suggest for you tonight, and I want us to all deeply consider, is that we, on this evening, have the opportunity of gaining the blessings of a whole lifetime of existence, a whole lifetime of prayer, a whole lifetime, 83 years, 4 months. And so I don't want this night to pass us by. And I want to suggest some things that we can do in order to make sure that we reap the great benefit that comes with drawing near to Allah and being able on this evening, as Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, when she asked the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Ya Rasulullah, if I am to find this evening, what should I pray for? What should I ask? And as I've repeated on a number of occasions during this month, that she said, that he, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, Allahumma innaka anta afuwun karimun tuhibbu afwa fa'fu anna. O Allah, you are a most and increasingly beneficial God who loves to forgive. So forgive me. And as I was saying before, throughout the last few opportunities that I've had to sit before you, is I'm asking afu anna, that, oh Allah, will you forgive me? So I'm asking that Allah would open up the gates of his mercy for me, that he would guide us to the good of this life, all of us to the good of this life, and to the good of the life to come. So my talk tonight will be focused on what are we going to be taking with us during this month of Ramadan. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says that this month of Ramadan, in essence, is a time that we can gain taqwa. And it is probably the crowning gem of our Islam, that we have the awe-inspiring perception and belief in Allah, and that we fear losing his protection. In essence, the word taqwa has an etymological meaning. What does it mean according to the language? It actually means to take your protection with something. So we have no one else to protect us from the fire except Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. It is like that we are standing in the middle of a roof where we feel safe, but the closer we get to the edge and begin to look over the side of the roof, the more fearful we become. This is the feeling that we should have when we think that in any way that we are losing distance from Allah. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says that he is near. If he is always near, as I've said before, it is so important that we as a people seek nearness to him. And how do we do this? We do this by obeying. How can we then, on this glorious night, that is the last of the possibilities of being the night of power, how can we then think of ourselves as not having fear of Allah? It is an exchange that goes on. If we fear him, if we have taqwa, then he, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala, will look at us as his servants and want to forgive us. And he will give us the ability to discern throughout our lives what is right and what is wrong, so that we can make the best decisions for our own souls. Think of the verse, وَيُكَفِّرْ عَنْكُمْ سَيِّئَاتِكُمْ, and that he will cover over your sins, وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ, and he will forgive you. And Allah, he is the most aware of who and what we are. So on this beautiful night that holds out for us the possibility of being the last of the nights of possibility for the night of power, what should we be doing with our time? What should we be thinking? What should we be feeling? I believe that the acquisition of taqwa is probably the most important thing in our lives. And Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says in the Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والذين اهتدوا زدهم هدى وأتاهم تقواهم. But for those who receive guidance, they not only are guided, but they receive the guidance and accept that guidance. Allah gives to them, He gives to them taqwa. He makes them understand the difference between what is right and what is wrong. We can find that in Surah Muhammad, in the 18th verse. And from this verse, we realize that taqwa is a gift, but it comes from us truly submitting to the will of Allah and accepting the guidance that He has given us, so that we're able to have the feeling of the presence of God in our lives and have the fear of losing His protection and His love. And so then, as the word implies, we seek refuge in Him, and we take our protection with Him. So as I was saying before, it's like being on a roof. When you're in the middle of a roof, you don't feel fearful. As a matter of fact, you feel comfortable, and you don't feel the nerves and the apprehension of being near the edge. And so, in order to have this feeling or acquire this feeling, we have to believe in Allah, and we have to act as though we are believers. We can't act otherwise. You know, as this month draws close, let us think deeply about who and what we want to take with us. I want to say this again and again for us. And what we want to leave behind. We want to leave behind everything that is wrong about the way we live. And we want to draw nearer to Allah by acquiring the habits and acquiring and building on the things that are necessary for Allah to be pleased with us. Let us think about giving a charity at the end of this month, because quite often one of the ways that we can best show that we believe in Allah is to be concerned for other people. And so I'm going to recommend and suggest to you that pay your zakat al-fitra, because it is not the zakat al-fitra. Some people are explaining that it's between $10 and $15, and this, to give to someone. But, in more traditional circumstances, we give rice and grain and dates, because it was foods that would not go bad. Now, in this day and age, quite often, instead of giving food, we give people food cards so that they can go to the supermarket and get the things that they want. But I advise you, in these closing days of Ramadan, to think about what do we have left for us to do. This is what we want to think about. We want to think about what we have left to do. And if we don't do that, then we will we'll find ourselves in terrible, terrible shape. I want you to remember this verse, and I want to say it to you again, and I want you to think about it, and you can find it in the 18th verse of Surah Muhammad, that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ اهْتَدَوْا وَزَدَّهُمْ هُدًى فَأَتَاهُمْ تَقْوَاهُمْ. Allah gives us the taqwa because we accept His guidance, and the only proof that we have for accepting His guidance is belief. Al-Islamu hu istislamu lillahi bitahti. That Islam in the truth is only real when we obey. If there's no obedience in what we do, then how can we expect to receive Allah's mercy? Isha radiallahu ta'ala anha, she was one who was accepting the Prophet Muhammad in this religion as though it was a living reality for her and for the community, even that they were being oppressed. And now, during this condition that we are living on, especially we who are in the West, even that we, inshallah, ta'ala, have more material well-being, even that we, inshallah ta'ala, have more issues of less issues of concern for material well-being. still we are very much being tested by the life that we live. And so we have to do everything we can to draw closer to Allah. So I'm asking myself, and I really, always trying to test myself and put myself in the position of being amongst those who need to be guided. I never can talk to people as though I'm the Imam and that I'm guided and you're not. And so I don't want us to lose out. And the ones who lose most are the people who are less than mindful of the existence of Allah and the way of life that He has given us to live by. Many people think that they are being personally connected to God, and they have an inner core that lets them reach God and to receive guidance. However, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala can't have closing in on 8 billion people with their own guidance. We have to have a guidance that brings us together, and Islam is that guidance. And you, as Muslims, even you who are not Muslim, if you happen to be looking this evening, I want you to know and understand that you have an opportunity to draw closer to Allah as well by looking into the religion of Islam and paying attention as to the possibility it holds out for you. Allah Ta'ala says in the mankind, it says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nas inna khalaqnakum. He's talking to humanity. He's not talking to the Muslim or the Arabs or non-Arabs, the white or black, but he's talking to all of mankind. Ya ayyuhan nasu inna khalaqnakum min dhakarin wa untha وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعْرَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. The ones who have taqwa are the ones who are closer to Allah. Wa inna Allah alimun khabir. He is well aware of what we do. So there's no fooling Allah. Sometimes we can fool ourselves and we can fool many people at one time. We can maybe fool all of the people some of the time, but we can never fool Allah Azza wa Jal. Again, Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He says in the Quran, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu in tattaqillah ja'alakum furqanan. That furqan that we're talking about is probably the most important thing that we could ever consider. So I'm asking Allah now to help to increase us in taqwa. Rabbana zidna taqwa wa zidna iman wa zidna ilm. Give us the knowledge that we need to have, and permit us to be able to be the people in life who are the ones who are discerning, the ones who are well aware of what they're doing and are constantly mindful of the existence of God and the need to draw the existence of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. In case we get it confused that I'm talking about something else, lest we get it confused that Allah Azza wa Jal is not real. Well, Allahu huwal haq, and Jannatul haq, and the Jahannam is haq. Allah is real. The paradise is real. The hellfire is real. Muhammad huwal haq. Muhammad is real, and we have to pay attention to this reality. Some people, once came to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and they asked the Prophet, "O Prophet, what is the thing that is most likely to allow us to go for mankind to go to Jannah?" And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Taqwa, number one, taqullah wa husnul khuluq," and that good behavior, good character. What did I say? I said that having taqwa is the number one element that's going to allow you to go to paradise, because with taqwa, you don't act as though you are free. You act as though you are bound by rules and regulations, and you're bound by the love and the mercy and the attachment to the Lord and Creator, and you're not amongst the people who are the rafila, who are mindless and not attached to the reality. So I'm asking Allah Ta'ala to make us amongst the people who are mindful. I'm asking that He opens up the gates of His mercy so that we who say that we believe in Him will act as though we truly believe in Him and want the paradise and the mercy and the forgiveness and the salvation that comes with this blessed month. So not in closing, but in being mindful to you, reminding you as I remind myself, what do we have to think about in these last few days? We have to think about what we've left behind, and possibly in this night, possibility of being a night of power, we can clean up the mistakes that we've made throughout this month. We have another 2 days of fasting. We're looking forward to the celebration on Eid al-Fitr. We're looking forward possibly to the fasting the 6 days. I'm hoping that I'm going to take part, and I'm planning to take part in the 6 days of fasting in the month of Shawwal. And the Prophet ﷺ, what we understand is that if you fast all of Ramadan and you fast the 6 days of Shawwal, as though you fasted a whole year, and so you're forgiven both for the year before and the year to come. So I'm asking Allah to make us amongst the people who look to this time and period, that we will be amongst the believing men and women who are seriously desirous of the mercy that we say that we want Him to give us. How do we do that? By planning for ourselves as we make tawbah, as I said a couple of nights before, turning to Him wholeheartedly, and entering into this way of life, entering into this way of life and not following the footsteps of Satan, and making a pledge to ourselves and to Allah to not turn back from the guidance that He has given us, and for us to use this month that we have behind us as a springboard to a whole new behavior. I think that with social distancing that we are now currently undergoing, we are longing for the time that we can collectively pray again in our masajid and our centers, the time that we can commingle with one another. But if this never happens, if this time never comes that we are able to meet and greet with one another, we have a chance in paradise to be amongst the believing men and women. So I'm asking myself to pay careful attention to this, and for us to be, if you want to be amongst the people who have the best chance of being forgiven, then ask Allah for taqwa and work in your life daily as though you have taqwa. Act as though you are mindful of Almighty Allah, and make as though you are on that roof, and every time you get close to the edge, know that you should feel the fear of falling. Oh Allah, you are a most merciful God. Ya Rabb, you are the most merciful God. You love to forgive. So forgive me and forgive all of us who have fasted throughout this month. Overlook our shortcomings and guide us to the good of this life and the life to come. Let me read one more piece of hadith for you, or verse from the Quran. Oh, hadith. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu wattaqullaha haythuma kunt. Fear Allah wherever you are. Fear Allah wherever you are, and follow up a bad deed with a good deed, and it'll wipe it out. This is what I want for myself and for you. I have a good sister named Shakura, who quite often calls me. And she and I speak frequently about life and family. And this sister, Shakura, quite often asks me, how am I to know if I'm doing what is good, and if the deeds that I am are acceptable, or if my heart is correct. And I tell her, the only one who can judge hearts is Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. The angels can't judge it. The Prophet ﷺ can judge it. Nobody knows the hearts of people. It is only Allah Azza wa Jal who knows the hearts of people. And you, in trying to measure your own heart, it's difficult. What you need to do is measure your behavior. As the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about what things will best afford us an opportunity of getting into Jannah, قال رسول الله تقوا الله وحسن الخلق. Husn al-khuluq means to have good behavior. The only way that you can measure yourself is how well you respond to what has been given to you as in a way of guidance. So if you find yourself making prayer regularly every day, even that sometimes you don't feel like praying, even that sometimes you're tired, even that your schedule is very, very busy, but you make sure and make every effort to make sure that your prayer is made on time, and that you take the great effort of making your wudu in a way that is in keeping with the sunnah, and take the care to wash yourself carefully. If you are doing all the things that you can to draw closer to Allah, then you're being mindful. And taqwa is probably resident in your heart. So I'm asking Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to help me to have this ability to discern. In tattaqillah ja'alakum furqanan. If you fear Allah, He will give you the ability to discern between what is right and wrong, and He will make your footsteps firm so that you will never go astray, and He will forgive you. And Allah, He's well aware of all that we do. So I close by asking Allah to have mercy on us. I ask Him to open up the gates of His mercy for us. I ask Him to expect Rabbana taqabbal min siyamina, that Allah would accept our fasting, because we can have a whole month of fasting and none of it be accepted. But I ask Allah that our prayer and our prayers, our qiyam al-layl, that our reading of the Quran, and all the things that we've taken part in during this blessed month are things that are going to be acceptable in His eyes. I asked Him that we pray for not only the Muslims here in Boston, but the Muslims throughout the world, that they will be blessed by this effort. It's so wonderful for me. I was very sick at the very beginning of this month and missed 2 days. And then I've been able to fast every day since then. I'm concerned for myself now. I'm saying to myself, Abdullah Faaruuq, I know that you've been staying up praying at night, and I know that you've been reading the Quran. The last thing I'd like to advise you and myself is that we have a level of sincerity that is unmatched in our lives. The level of our ikhlas in our prayer and a khushu', قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ, that those of us that are praying have khushu' in our salah. So in these last and final moments, final days and final moments of this Shahr Ramadan, all of us should have sincerity in our hearts, seek taqwa, make tawbah, turn to Allah in full sincerity, tawbatan nusuha. Turn to Him and ask Him, "Oh Allah, You are a most merciful God. You are a merciful, abundantly merciful God. You love to forgive. So forgive me." And I say it in another way. Allahumma, I say it for all of us. Allahumma innaka anta afuwun tuhibbu afwa. Allahumma innaka anta afuwun karimun tuhibbu afwa. Fa'fu anna. Subhanaka rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala mursalin. We pray for our Prophet Muhammad. We pray for all the prophets that went before him. We pray for his family. And we pray for his beloved and dear companions who supported him in a time that is far more excessively oppressive than what we're going through, and all who follow him in judgment. And I pray that each and every one of us who fasted during this month fall under that conscript, that we can be considered the believing men and women who Allah loves. Allah have mercy on us, and please guide us to the good of this life and the good of the life to come. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Ramadan Mubarak, and Eid Kareem. I'll see you Sunday morning at 9 o'clock. And the takbirat for Sunday morning will begin at 8 o'clock. It's going to be live stream from the ISBCC that is doing a tremendous job in trying to bring our community together so that we all can all be worshiping and honoring Allah as a community of people. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdur-Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified. And you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Amal Mao, and I've been a part of the community of ISBCC for 8 months, and I have greatly benefited from a lot of the programs that ISBCC provides for our community. One of the programs that I've personally enjoyed is the ISBCC Book Club, which is hosted and held by me and my sister Huda. It's been a very beautiful experience and a great pleasure to be part of this community. And I would like to urge all community members to support the matching donation campaign. Inshallah, may Allah reward you for all your contributions. As'alullah an yataqabbal minna wa minkum salih al-a'mal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
ماشي بنور الله ماشي ماشي بنور الله ماشي ماشي بنور الله ماشي
ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب
ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب أبقى بحسن رجاء زدني بحبك حب يا رب ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب أبقى بحسن رجاء زدني بحبك حب يا رب وبارك لي بعياني وبصحتي وبمالي وبكل أعمالي أسعى لما ترضى ماشي 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 بنور الله 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 ماشي
ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب
أستغفرك وأتوب عن كل عصيان يا رب يا ما رحمت قلوب يا رب ترعاني يا رب أستغفرك وأتوب عن كل عصيان يا رب يا ما رحمت قلوب يا رب تراني يا رب في رحمتك آية ومحبة وهداية وفي كل شيء آيات قل تعالى الله ماشي 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 بنور الله 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 ماشي بنور الله. ماشي بنور الله ماشي ماشي بنور الله ماشي ماشي بنور الله ماشي
ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب
ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب يا رب أبقى بحسن رجاء زدني بحبك حب يا رب ماشي بنور الله يا رب أبقى بحسن رجاء زدني بحبك حب يا رب وبارك لي بعيالي وبصحتي وبمالي وبكل أعمالي أسعى لما ترضى ماشي 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 بنور الله 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 ماشي
ماشي بنور الله أدعي وأقول يا رب
أستغفرك وأتوب عن كل عصيان يا رب يا ما رحمت قلوب يا رب تراني يا رب أستغفرك وأتوب عن كل عصيان يا رب يا ما رحمت قلوب يا رب تراني يا رب في رحمتك آية ومحبة وهداية وفي كل شيء آيات قل تعالى الله ماشي 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 بنور الله 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 ماشي بنور الله
أبكي وبدري بالجمال توارى وتأوهي ملأ الفجاج كسفينة في بطن بحر قد جرت وفؤادها للسير يلهب نارا وخذ النبي فهو الذي أضحى في دج العمى مختارا
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء
علي في الهوى عار إذا علي في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهام هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السهاد
هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السهاد
هدى الشوق هاد حرمني السهاد
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء
بحب أحمد عالي المقام بحب أحمد عالي المقام هو محمد هدي الأنام
هو محمد هدي الأنام
هو محمد هدي الأنام
أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء أليف الغرام واستحل الكلام فهامت به أطيف الوياء
في الهوى عار إذا سير المتيم بالليل وهاب علي في الهوى.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. I'm Khalil Abdur-Rashid, and my message to all of you tonight is to support the Islamic Society of Boston, the ISBCC. This Ramadan, we've all felt the pain of being separated from the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And while we've done our best to stay connected, and the ISBCC has worked tirelessly and hard to bring us all together so that we can have the most beautiful experience in Ramadan that we could as a community, the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the ISBCC, still needs your help. So my message is to give generously, brothers and sisters, during these last 10 days, and particularly on the 27th night. During the time of Laylatul Qadr, this is the time where our generosity is magnified, and you never know, and we all never know, if we may not ever get a second chance. So we've got to make it count this year and this time. And so therefore, it's important to remember that no one else in our community will support the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except us. And we can't do it alone. We need everyone's help and everyone's support to build up and maintain and to enhance the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So join me, brothers and sisters, and I want to encourage myself and all of you to give generously during these last 10 days. Make it count. Make an investment for yourself and your family. Support the ISBCC generously and financially. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رضي الله تعالى عنهم وعن كافة المؤمنين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, dear brothers and sisters. Ramadan Mubarak. May Allah bless all of us with a blessed night tonight, inshallah ta'ala. It's one of the odd nights, inshallah, the 29th night. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our ibadah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pardon all of us. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the blessings and the barakah of Laylatul Jum'ah, of the night of Jum'ah, the night where we are entering into the blessed day of congregation. And we all know the many blessings that are contained in the day of Jum'ah. It's a day of salawat ala Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a day where we're supposed to read Surah Al-Kahf, a day where we're supposed to petition Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness and for closeness to Him and for Jannah. And with that in mind, brothers and sisters, we journey tonight through Juz 29, Juz Tabarak. The chapters, 11 chapters actually, comprise this 29th Juz of the Quran, and they're all, with the exception of one surah, they're all Meccan chapters of the Quran. So in that case, Surah Al-Insan, which is near the second to the last chapter in this juz, chapter 76, that's the Medina chapter in this juz. But they're all Meccan chapters, which means we are constantly inundated, mashallah, with the reminder of the Day of Judgment and the importance of believing in resurrection and all of the detailed elements that pertain to life in the afterlife, the situation with the people, with the disbelievers, and the situation with the believers. And so chapter 67 starts us off, Surah Al-Mulk, which is the chapter on control and power. And this chapter is a beautiful and powerful chapter. It has as its primary theme, as is clear from the title, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power and His might over everything. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala issues challenges to those who disbelieve in His message. And then one of the most powerful verses is the final verse in this chapter, Surah Al-Mulk, which I encourage all of you to read and reread, even memorize if you can. قُلْ أَرَأَيْتُمْ إِنْ أَصْبَحَ مَاؤُكُمْ غَوْرًا فَمَنْ يَأْتِيكُمْ بِمَاءٍ مَعِينٍ. What would it be, or say to the believer, to the disbelievers, What would you think if all of the water in the planet suddenly dried up and suddenly disappeared? Just like you know, with the dam breaking in Michigan and the flooding in Michigan and the flooding in Bangladesh, for example, you know, this is overflow of water. Well, what would happen if all the water, we woke up tomorrow morning on Friday and everything was gone? All the water was gone. Who is it? Allah Ta'ala says, who is it that you could petition? Who could possibly bring you clear flowing water? Certainly not the governments that we rely on, that some folks rely on. So there's no person who has this kind of power. So Allah Ta'ala closes the chapter on power and control to help us reflect on who really has power and control. Water is the source of all kinds of life. And just taking that as an example, if we woke up tomorrow morning and on all the news channels, you know, all the water everywhere, nobody's tap water worked and everything was gone, who is it that everyone would turn to ask for fresh flowing water again? And that's how this juz introduces itself to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's power is you know, in small dosages, in small case studies, is revealed. And Allah Ta'ala takes us through chapter 68, which is called Al-Qalam, the pen. And we know from the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that the divine pen, it was the first thing that was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah Ta'ala then created the preserved tablet, which is referenced twice in the Quran, once in Surah Al-Waqi'ah and the other in Juz Amma, which we'll come to tomorrow night. And the preserved tablet contains all of the deeds of humanity, what they will do, and etc. And Allah Ta'ala swears by the pen, by the divine qalam, and then as an extension of this, this is why the Muslims have always valued the pen. So Allah Ta'ala tells us in the first revelation of the Quran, Iqra, which is, you know, read, literacy is important. And he also in this chapter, in chapter 68, swears by the pen and the importance of the pen and the instrumentality of the pen and the significance of the pen. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by swearing by the pen, defends the Prophet ﷺ in this chapter against the accusations that the Prophet was a madman, that the Prophet was, you know, was insane, or that the Prophet ﷺ was possessed, you know, by demons. And therefore, in this chapter, we have what's exposed to us is the arrogance, actually, of many of the Meccans who made these accusations against the Prophet ﷺ, and those who thought that they were more powerful than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then we get examples of how people in the past regretted those same mistakes. And in this chapter, we have an example, a case study of who are a group of people called the Ashabul Jannah, the people of the garden. And these were people, a big family that lived in Yemen a long time ago. And Allah Ta'ala gives us the lesson from this story about how they were arrogant with the blessing of Allah Ta'ala that Allah gave them. And they woke up one morning and their entire, all their agriculture, their acreage of everything they had was gone one morning. And one night, a fiery wind took everything, destroyed all the fields and the crops and the gardens and everything. And they woke up in the morning trying to go out and take their products and reap their benefits for themselves, and everything was gone. So you never know what will happen tomorrow. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can flip everything around tomorrow morning. You can go to sleep tonight and everything's cool and comfortable, and tomorrow morning you wake up and you're blind, right? Now tomorrow morning you wake up and there's a resource that you took for granted, all of a sudden is gone, you know. And so you never, ever, ever take for granted the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the second chapter in this juz that we are introduced to, the qalam, the pen. Allah writes things for us, rewrites for us what we are to receive and what we are not to receive, and what's to happen, what will happen, etc. So you never know what will happen tomorrow. And so we cannot in any way arrogantly take for granted any of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. And to do so will only end up in our demise, which is why chapter 69, the very next chapter, which is called Al-Haqqa, which is a reference to the inevitability of the final hour, the inevitability of the day of the presence of the coming, actually, of the day of judgment. Surah Al-Haqqa, chapter 69 in the Quran, contrasts the plight of the believers with the plight of the disbelievers, and it is a short chapter, and it affirms the truth of the Quran. And what's most beautiful is that we need to take notice of the descriptions of the states of bliss and happiness that are recorded for those that believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, what's really deep in Surah Al-Haqqah is that it informs us of another event that will happen on the Day of Judgment that is really informed and revealed to us for the first time. And this is the handing of the book of deeds, to each and every person. And so Allah Ta'ala says that some will receive their book in their right hands, and others will receive their book in their left hand. And so the people who receive their book in their left hand, that they will realize their mistake, and their mistakes in this chapter are quoted recorded as being two things. One, that they didn't really believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second thing is that they didn't feed anybody. They didn't engage in feeding the hungry. And it's very, very interesting, because this juz is a consistent theme in this juz: believe in Allah ta'ala, and the importance and the signification of feeding the hungry, feeding those in need. We see over and over again in this juz that those that are doomed to destruction and displeasure by Allah Ta'ala, and those who have deep regrets in the afterlife, their confessions are quoted for us in this part of the Quran. And their confession is the fact that they didn't believe and that they did not feed the hungry. And so in this time, this night, and tomorrow is Friday, some of us have the resources that we're able to give in terms of charitable resources. The time for zakat is coming up. The importance of funneling our financial resources to projects related to feeding the hungry is really critical, and that's the message, one of the core messages of this juz, and that's outlined in Surah Al-Haqq, chapter 69. Then we get into Surah Al-Ma'arij, which is chapter 70, beautiful, beautiful chapter, which talks about the different ways, the different paths of ascent. And this is a reference to the various paths that the angels take to go up and down, to go up to the realm of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and come back down on earth. I think of this as sort of an abstract, invisible, unseen elevator, right? Or transport. And so Surah Al-Ma'arij talks about that. It exposes the foolishness of those who deny resurrection, right? So the angels can go back and forth. Certainly human souls can go back and forth as well. And it describes the plight of the people that are guaranteed Jannah. Surah Al-Ma'arij is very, very beautiful. Chapter 71 is the next stage in this juz. And chapter 71 is called Noah, Surah Nuh. And the entire chapter, from beginning all the way to end, it details the life and the da'wah and the mission and the calling of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam before the flood. And this entire narrative is a lesson for those who deny the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's a lesson for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to stay the course and to be patient. This is the only time in the Quran where the entire narrative of Nuh alayhi salam is recorded. And it's a really, I mean, in this you feel the plea of Nuh alayhi salam. And at the end, the very last verse, take notice of the very last verse in this chapter 71. That's the prayer of Noah. That's the dua of Noah. And what he does, he prays for himself. He prays against the disbelievers. He prays for his family. And what's really deep is that we get a glimpse into the generosity of Noah alayhi salam. He prays for all, and I mean all, in capital A, capital L, and underline, and italic, bold, everything. All believers, men and women, from his time until the end of time. This is an incredible dua where Allah Ta'ala says, forgive me and bless me and grant me Jannah and my family and the believers, min mu'minin wa mu'minatin wa la tazidil zalimina illa tabara, and don't let the oppressors and the wrongdoers don't increase them at all in anything whatsoever, in any element of productivity at all. But the fact that Noah alayhi salam included you and all of your families and all of your loved ones and myself and everyone else, all the believing men and women, in his dua to Allah, his final dua to Allah Ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless and enhance Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, this great ancestor prophet of ours. So this is really beautiful that we have been included and in the dua of Nuh alayhi salam. Chapter 72 is called the Jinn, Surah al-Jinn. And this is a very creative surah. I remember when I was a lot younger, one of my Quran teacher told me that this was the hardest chapter in the Quran to memorize, because the structure of it was a structure that is more amenable to the jinn, and so its structure is challenging. Like the most of the verses end in wa inna or anna or inna, and they're very similar in style. And so it talks about the overarching theme is a description of the account of when the jinn heard the Quran and they witnessed the Quran, and how they were inspired by the message of the Quran, how they had never heard anything about it. And this is a dars and a lesson for human beings that choose to hear the Quran, listen to the Quran, understand its message, and yet still obstinately, arrogantly, persistently turn away from the message of the Quran. So Allah Ta'ala say, even the creation of the unseen that has more power than us as human beings, that they absorb, many of them, not all of them, but many of them absorbed this message and took heed to it. Then we get into chapters 73 and 74, which are Surah Muzammil and Surah Muddathir. Both reference the fact the early revelation of the Prophet ﷺ, when he first received the revelation, and he was wrapped up. He was in his cloak and he was wrapped up in his clothes. And then when he experienced the revelation and was shocked, he went home, and his wife Khadija radiallahu ta'ala anha wrapped him up again. And so both of these chapters are paired descriptions of what the Prophet ﷺ, instructions to the Prophet ﷺ about what to do in this early period of Islam. It's a reminder as well of what is to come, of the punishment of the disbelievers, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What's really deep is that in Surah Muddathir, chapter 74, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards the middle part of the chapter, or in the middle part, towards the end, Allah recounts this inquisition, this dialogue, if you will, that involves the people of heaven who choose to question the people of hell. And the dialogue there is another part of this another part of this juz that you should pay attention to in chapter 74, right? Ma salakakum fi saqar, they say. What got you into this in the first place? How in the world did you end up in such a wretched condition, right? You had 80 years, you had all the resources in the world, you encountered this message. What in the world caused you to fail like this and to ruin yourself like this? قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُنْ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. The first statement that they will say, that Allah Ta'ala says in their confession, is that we weren't people who prayed. So they did not cultivate the vertical relationship, what I call the vertical relationship. They did not cultivate their relationship with Allah Ta'ala. No spiritual cultivation at all material, right? And as an extension of not cultivating the spiritual, they didn't believe in the afterlife. They didn't believe in resurrection. They put all their chips, all their hopes, all their funds into this worldly life. So this became their heaven. This became all there was. But then the second thing is that they confess to, وَلَمْ نَكُنْ نُطْعِمُ الْمِسْكِينَ. And we never fed anyone who was poor. We didn't give to the poor. They didn't do any zakat, no sabagh. This is the second thing. First, they didn't pray, and then they didn't pay. Notice the juxtapositioning of salat and zakat all through the Quran, from Surah Al-Baqarah, every single surah. Prayer, zakat. Prayer, giving. Praying, paying. right? So that's the second thing. They didn't do those two basic, fundamental aspects of cultivating a relationship with the horizontal, with their communities, which is universal in the prophetic message. وَكُنَّا نَخُوضُ مَعَ الْخَائِضِينَ. And then they said we used to involve ourselves in foolish pursuits and idle talk and idle pursuits. We used to invest in, the absence of productive things, right? So imagine like a company is going, in today's world, like companies are going bankrupt and they're going out of business. So imagine you as a billionaire, you want to invest in a company that's going, underneath, right? Doesn't make sense. So they put all their hopes in things that don't benefit them. وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ is their fourth confession. And on top of that, on top of not praying, on top of not paying, on contributing, on top of investing and participating in the absence of productivity, things that have no benefit to them, idle pursuits, idle as in I-D-L-E, not I-D-O-L, idle meaning nothing's productive. There's no fa'ida, there's no manfa'a, okay? There's no thamarats, there's no fruits or productive, but so idle in that sense. So they invested in idle pursuits, I-D-L-E. وَكُنَّا نُكَذِّبُ بِيَوْمِ الدِّينِ. And then they said, we used to deny with our behavior, we used to deny with our tongues, we used to deny with our philosophies and ideologies and our psychologies, everything about our lifestyles, deny the coming hour, the existence. And we live that way, we function that way, we raised our kids that way, we thrive that way, حَتَّى أَتَانَا الْيَقِينَ, until death came to us. That's their confession. Profound statement. So Allah is giving us a preview of the confessions of the people who are ruined in the afterlife. So the point is, don't be like that, right? The point is, pray, pay, invest in productive and act in beneficial acts with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in your community, and constantly keep in mind in the forefront the presence of the Day of Judgment, and be like that until yaqeen comes to you, until certainty comes to you, until the final moment, the inevitability of your and my humanity, which is the fact that we will come to an end in this life. Until that comes, keep that going. So that's the point in the metaphor of being wrapped up, which is the name of the chapter, being wrapped up, because so many of us get involved with worldly pursuits that we become wrapped up in those worldly pursuits, and we become enveloped and cloaked in things that have absolutely little to no benefit. And those things that envelop us and those things that wrap us up tend to blind us and bind us and limit us and constrict us and restrict us from the expansiveness of the guidance of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And so with that, we are taken into chapter 75, which is called Surah Al-Qiyamah, the resurrection, right? The paradigmatic chapter in the Quran that deals with the inevitability of this thing that, across human culture and history has been a feature of their deniability. And in this chapter, we are given something we've not been given before. It's beautiful. Allah announces to us and the greatest gift in heaven, which is the sight, the vision, what's called the ru'ya of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah ta'ala says, وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. On that day, there will be faces that will be نَاظِرَةٌ. وُجُوهٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ نَاظِرَةٌ. There will be faces on that day that are radiant and bright, full of nur, right? Full of light. إِلَىٰ رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ. And because they'll be gazing and looking at their Lord, right? And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invokes the sight of the people of heaven. And so we know that the Prophet ﷺ told us that this is one of the greatest gifts in heaven. And Allah ta'ala talks about the departure of the soul in this chapter. When the soul reaches the collarbone, وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ, and the angels are debating who's going to take it. Angel of hell is saying, I'll take the soul. The angel of heaven saying, no, I'll take the soul, etc. I mean, this is powerful information about this end state of affairs where Allah Ta'ala says, well, the two legs will be bound together, which is foreshadowing the death of every person and the wrapping of the body, which is also parallel to the fact that one leg will be in this world, the other leg will be in the afterlife, meaning that a person will be headed in the direction of the afterlife while transitioning out of this life. And iltaf also means to look back and forth. And so the soul will be coming out of the body, looking towards the afterlife, but also looking back at the family and the world it left, and back and forth. And then all of a sudden they're cleared from this life and they completely transition into the afterlife. Very powerful, deep, evocative material in Surah Al-Resurrection. Take your time as you're going through that and make that a part of your reflection, especially in the evenings. And then we come to 76, chapter 76 with Surah Al-Insan, talks about how people are tested and the results of human beings' actions. The Prophet ﷺ is asked to persevere. And also in this chapter, we get a reference to feeding people as well. We get a reference of the people of heaven, that they fed people. We get a description of the bliss again in this chapter. The importance of feeding people. Brothers and sisters, if you're in a bad slot, if you're financially in hardship, if you're being tested and you want a way out, you want Allah to ease your test in this world and in this life and anything you're going through, if you have a challenge and you can't find a way out and there's nobody that can help you, you want Allah's help, feed somebody. That is the quickest way, the most quickest and swiftest and loftiest way to get in Allah Ta'ala's favor and to earn a spiritual currency with yourself and to raise your status. Feed somebody and don't tell anybody. Don't announce it. Just feed people. إِنَّمَا نُطْعِمُكُمْ لِوَجْهِ اللَّهِ لَا نُرِيدُ مِنْكُمْ جَزَاءً وَلَا شُكُورًا. Allah Ta'ala says, we're just feeding you, quoting the people of heaven. We're feeding you because we're doing it for Allah's sake. We don't want thanks from you, and we don't want anything from you. Our transactions with Allah Ta'ala, you just happen to be a part of it, right? That's the spirit. That's Surah Al-Insan is here. Take note of that. If you're in difficulty, feed people. And every time you're in difficulty, feed people. And in that way, you're feeding your spirit, and you're feeding and contributing to your relation with Allah Ta'ala. Finally, the juz ends, chapter 77, Surah Al-Mursalat, which talks about winds that are set forth, and these winds are a metaphor to the swift angels that come in and out of the world, managing certain things in the world, managing different events, punishments, benefits, and the presence of angels. It's a description of the Day of Judgment and the arguments that are there about the Day of Judgment. And the last thing is that this surah has in it a common refrain, just like in Surah Rahman, فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ, which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? This chapter says, وَيْلٌ يَوْمَئِذٍ لِلْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Woe on that day to those who denied the truth. So Allah Ta'ala repeats this statement 10 times in this chapter. Woe on the Day of Judgment. Bad news on the Day of Judgment to those that deny it. He repeats it as a refrain over and over again. Brothers and sisters, in the last 20 seconds that I have, inshallah ta'ala, let me just wrap up. We have these 11 chapters, beginning with control and ending with the winds that are set forth and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The overarching theme of this juz is resurrection, the Day of Judgment. And finally, a consistent theme: believe in Allah ta'ala, believe in the resurrection, feed people. And don't be like those who arrogantly deny the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah bless you and bless us and allow us to have a fruitful and beneficial exit to Ramadan. Join us tomorrow night as we have our closing session in the final juz of the Quran, juz 30th. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Imam, and I've been a part of the community of ISPCC for 8 months, and I have greatly benefited from a lot of the programs that ISPCC provides for our community. One of the programs that I personally enjoyed is the ISPCC Book Club, which is hosted and held by me and my sister Huda. It's been a very beautiful experience and a great pleasure to be a part of this community. And I would like to urge all community members to support the matching donation campaign. Inshallah, may Allah reward you for all your contributions. أسأل الله أن يتقبل منا ومنكم صالح الأعمال. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers and sisters. Barakallahu fikum, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of you. Ramadan is not over. Not until the iftar on the very last day, until you hear the adhan of Maghrib, it is not over. Bid farewell to Ramadan as you would to a beloved visitor, a close family member who lives far away, and who comes and visits you once a year, and with whom you want to spend as much quality time as possible until the very last minutes. When you have such a family member and they're leaving in a couple of days, you spend all the time you can with them, quality time. Do the same to Ramadan. Do not treat it as a burden that you wish to get rid of, or khalas, it's going to be over soon anyways. Either way, it will pass, but you choose how. And subhanAllah, this positive attitude of holding on to Ramadan and the blessing of Ramadan until the very last minute, this attitude will give you more barakah in the deeds that you have done. Wallahu yudha'ifu liman yasha, and Allah multiplies rewards for whom He wills. And when He sees one of us holding on to the blessed month until the very last minute, making dua until the very last minute, appreciating it, feeling it in his heart, perhaps for this person He will increase the rewards. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the most forgiving, the most merciful, and the most generous. If human beings reward good etiquette, if human beings reward attention and care until the very last moment, how about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most generous? And if you do this, if you spend this care of Ramadan until the very last moments, the status of Ramadan will increase in your heart. You will feel it becomes more special to you year upon year. And next year, inshallah, you will have it, you will essentially, it will come to you, and you will accept it as you would a beloved guest, and you will rise higher than you have this year and previous years, inshallah ta'ala. And your status will increase in the sight of Allah when you put Ramadan on such a high pedestal in your heart, and when your actions show it until the very last moments. Tonight might still be Laylatul Qadr. Doing this increased worship until the very last moments of Ramadan, and praying tonight, inshallah ta'ala, and tomorrow night, it will make Ramadan a great matter for you. Make dua as much as you can. Ya Allah, accept my Ramadan, forgive my mistakes, my shortcomings, my insufficient efforts during the blessed month, my distractions, the time I wasted, this and that. Ya Allah, forgive. This Ramadan was unique. You will remember it all your life, insha'Allah. The beauty of worshipping on your own, the uniqueness of that. It was different. How will it be different for you? When you look back and you remember, will you remember the efforts that you put until the very last moments? Or will you remember, well, it was just some time that happened and something, and you don't really have much detail? Make the last 2 nights of Ramadan a magnificent conclusion that you would be proud of. One you would meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with and ask Him, Ya Allah, I ask you with these good deeds that you purify me, that you forgive me. And subhanAllah, on these last nights, make dua. Make so much dua from the bottom of your heart. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will overwhelm you. There is a beautiful example from the Quran. ذكر رحمة ربك عبده زكريا إذ نادى ربه نداء خفيا قال رب إني وهن العظم مني واشتعل الرأس شيبا ولم أكن بدعائك رب شقيا وإني خفت الموالي من ورائي وكانت امرأتي عاقرا فهب لي من لدنك وليا يرثني ويرث من آل يعقوب واجعله رب رضيا. This is a mention of the mercy of your Lord to His servant Zakaria. When he called to his Lord in a private supplication, a private dua, he said, My Lord, indeed my bones have weakened and my head has filled with white hair. And I have never been in my supplication to you, my Lord, unhappy. And indeed, I fear that the successors after me and my wife has been barren. So give me from yourself an heir. Give me a child who will inherit me and inherit from the family of Jacob, of Yaqub, and make me my Lord and make him my Lord pleasing to you. He made this dua. His wife doesn't have children. He is old. Ya Allah, grant me a child. It is an unlikely thing to happen, but he still made dua, and he made it with such, with such power from his heart. Nida'an khafiya, privately by himself. And subhanallah, not only did Allah accept, but Zakaria himself was astounded. يا زكريا إنا نبشرك بغلام اسمه يحيى لم نجعل له من قبل سميا قال رب أن يكون لي غلام ولم أكن قال رب أن يكون لي غلام وكانت امرأتي عاقرا وقد بلغت من الكبر عتيا. He said, he was told, O Zakaria, indeed, we will give you good tidings, glad tidings of a boy whose name will be Yahya. We have not assigned to anyone before him this name. And Zakaria said, my Lord, how will I have a boy when my wife has been barren and I have reached extreme old age? Subhanallah, these are the same complaints that he made while he was making dua. He was saying, Ya Rab, my wife is barren and I'm old, and grant us a child by your mercy. Now when he has him, or when he has been given glad tidings of this child, he makes the same things. He's saying, and this is a prophet of Allah. He's saying, but I'm old and my wife is barren. How is this possible? And subhanallah, this is the generosity of Allah. It can be so much that it will astound you. It will amaze you. Make dua from the bottom of your heart. And subhanallah, you'll know many people, and maybe in your own life, you have a few instances when you made such dua and you were astounded by the result. You were astounded by what happened, and you're like, I can't believe this happened. Subhanallah. You did not expect, and you did not earn, but you thank Allah from the bottom of your heart. During these blessed nights, make dua on the end of Ramadan. Ya Rabb, clean my soul, cleanse my heart. Don't make me go back to the path of evil, of misguidance, of heedlessness, of consumption in the dunya. Help me go through life and meet you with an intact, pure heart. Qalbin salim. Cleanse my soul of arrogance, of stinginess, of greed, of selfishness, of envy towards what you have given other people. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, Man sama Ramadan imanan wa ihtisaban, غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. And ومن قام رمضان إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. ومن يقم ليلة القدر إيمانا واحتسابا غفر له ما تقدم من ذنبه. He who fasts Ramadan, or he who prays during Ramadan in the night, who may praise Tahajjud in Ramadan, and he who prays during Laylatul Qadr, all of them imanan wa ihtisaban, in faith and ihtisaban, asking Allah for the reward. What has been already given from his sins will be forgiven. What he has already done from his sins will be forgiven. And I wish to focus on this second word, ihtisaban, asking Allah for the reward, being fully conscious, Ya Rabb, give me the reward for this. Ya Rabb, I made my intention purely for you, because pure intention is a prerequisite for the proper ihtisab. Ya Rabb, you know that I am weak. My good deeds are few and distracted and far in between, but you are the most generous and you will reward for them. Ya Rabb, أحتسب عندك عملي. I ask you, I know you will take into account my actions, so I ask you to take into account my good actions, Ya Rabb. During these nights, these last few nights, as you pray, as you make dua, make lots of dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts your past good deeds, inshallah. Your fasting during Ramadan, your prayer, your charity. Make sincere dua that it is accepted, that it is magnified and amplified. Make dua that your heart is cleansed, that you come out of Ramadan better than you have entered it. Subhanallah, the beauty of Ramadan, the fasting, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the hikmah, the wisdom, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you may attain piety. You have been prescribed to fast so that you may attain piety. Make dua, Ya Rabb, I fasted for you and only for you. Not out of habit, not out of culture, not out of what everybody else is doing, not out of riyah or showing off. Ya Rab, I fasted only for you. Accept it. And help me attain this piety in my heart. Help my heart be pure, have this serenity, this confidence, this strength by your grace, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. So that whatever challenges come my way, I am strong. Whatever challenges I see, whatever distractions, whatever things that make people thrown off their roots, I'm still strong and firmly rooted in my belief in you, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. Give me this piety that it may take me away from the path of evil. Even if it is a path I have taken many times and it has taken a strong hold over my heart. Give me the piety that I may break free from it. Ya Rab, make me strong. Help me see truth wherever it is. And give me the strength to follow it. Even in times when truth is murky and people are confused. Ya Rab, give me the strength to see the truth and the wisdom to follow it. Ya Rab, what you have granted me from that which I love, make it a source of strength for me on the path of that which you love. And that which you have withheld from me from that which I love, give me in its stead strength and steadfastness on the path which you love. Ya Rab, grant me confidence in my Islam, grant me strength in my deen. Make me a beacon of guidance. Guide me and guide through me. Strengthen me, strengthen my Iman. Make me proud of my Islam. Make my family proud of their Islam. Make my children proud of their Islam. Ya Rab, guide us to the straight path. Guide us and strengthen us. And make us meet you on a day that is the best day in our lives, that is the best day of our existence. Make it a day full of rewards, of seeing our good deeds and forgiveness of our bad deeds. Make dua, my dear brothers and sisters, from the bottom of your heart, from whatever matter that pains you, whatever matter weighs upon your soul. Ya Rab, remove this weight from my soul. It is a weight that I have told nobody else but you. It is a weight that I cannot tell anybody else but you. And only you can remove it. Ya Allah, I have sought help from this person and that person and all of these people, and my affliction remains. I seek help in you, Ya Allah. Ya Allah. And subhanAllah, when you make dua, أَمَّن يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ, he who accepts the prayer, the supplication of one who has no other recourse, who is all the doors have closed to him except the door of Allah. When you are in that situation and you are completely helpless, Ya Rab, you know yourself, Ya Rab, there is no strength except by you. Grant me this, subhanallah. It is like a weight is lifted from your heart. A weight and a cover is lifted from your eyes. You see peace, you feel this inner security, and you understand why you are here on this earth. Ya Rab, grant us steadfastness in Ramadan, accept from us Ramadan, and grant us steadfastness after Ramadan, Ya Arhamar Rahimeen. It is not easy, my dear brothers and sisters. Insha'Allah, Eid is in a couple of days. Enjoy Eid. Spend time with your family and loved ones. Take time off. It is important to enjoy it. The very first test, though, is on the very first day of Eid. What will you do on Eid? Will you have fun and forget your duties? Or will you be regular with your salah? On time. The very first thing you should be doing is your salah. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, the very first thing man is asked upon on the Day of Judgment is his prayer. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَا تَقَرَّبَ إِلَيَّ عَبْدِي بِشَيْءٍ أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ مِمَّا افْتَرَضْتُهُ عَلَيْهِ. My slave has not tried to come near to me with anything more beloved to me than that which I have made an obligation upon him. And especially the obligatory prayers. Inshallah, on the day of Eid, do not miss your prayers. Do not miss Fajr. Do not miss all of the prayers that have been prescribed upon you. Have fun, alhamdulillah, and try to pray with khushu'. And not just the quality, not just the quantity, but the quality. Make the quality higher. The quality of your prayer. Take this khushu' you have developed in Ramadan, this piety that you have gotten from fasting, from reading the Quran. Take this khushu' and keep it with you. Preserve it. Subhanallah. And brothers, try to pray in the masjid, inshallah, when you can, when they reopen. After Ramadan, the Quran has not gone anywhere. It is still here. It is still with us in our hands, in our homes, and it should be in our hearts. The Prophet ﷺ in the Quran, the one ayah says, قال الرسول وقال الرسول يا رب إن قوم اتخذوا هذا القرآن مهجورا. And the Prophet said, my Lord, my people have taken this Quran as an abandoned thing. It's just they have abandoned it. And the scholars have said there are many interpretations of this. The very first of which is they don't read it, or they don't make it a part of their lives. And higher levels are, even if they read it, they don't act upon it, or they don't let it change them. So my dear brothers and sisters, do not be among those who abandon the Quran. Do not make the Quran something you only make a part of your life in Ramadan. Make it a serious, real part of your life throughout your life, inshallah ta'ala. What will you take away from you after this Ramadan? Will you go back to being the same person? Or will you change yourself for the better? Read the Quran at least once a week. Give yourself something. Give yourself a goal. You know your level. Push yourself higher. Don't go back to what you were before Ramadan. Do not, under any circumstances, do that. Be one who says, Ya Rabb, I have made it this far. I have ascended, alhamdulillah, with your grace. Do not let me go back. Make that part of your dua the last few nights. Ya Rabb, perhaps I cannot sustain the level during Ramadan throughout the year, but Ya Rabb, make me better, much better than what I was before Ramadan. And inshallah, every milestone, every Ramadan will be a positive milestone in your life. Another step forward, another step higher. Read the Quran, even if it's 1 page a week. If you want to go higher, if you find yourself having a lot of energy, alhamdulillah, try to pray 2 rak'ahs of qiyam as much as you can, even if every night. And one prayer, the easiest prayer possible, is Salatul Watr, 1 rak'ah before you sleep, just 1 rak'ah. And Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said, my beloved friend, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he gave me 3 pieces of advice, and one of them was always to pray Salatul Watr. Pray Salatul Watr, 1 rak'ah before you sleep with short surahs. Alhamdulillah. My dear brothers and sisters, during this Ramadan, your soul, you have purified. You have cleansed yourself just by the act of fasting. And the more you have prayed, the more you have read Quran, the more you have given charity, you have only increased that purification. When you spend a great deal of time and effort cleaning up your home, you want to keep it clean. You don't just let the uncleanliness creep up after you're done. You preserve it. You try to keep it in the best pristine state possible. Your heart is more important than your home. Remove the materialism from your heart. Do not let the concerns of the dunya come back into your heart and spoil the purity that you have attained in Ramadan. Protect it, my dear brothers and sisters. Protect it with dua, with worship, with turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our Ramadan. May He accept our prayers. May He accept all of our good deeds and our charity. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to gather us together in paradise. Deliver this series on the revival of the soul, to be asked to do this by the ISB. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from all of you. Jazakumullahu khair.